Hi, Lou here to talk about commodity markets in games. Specifically, tabletop games are now moving into a commodity market. Video games have been in a commodity market for several years. So what is a commodity market? It's a market where quality doesn't matter much. It's a pretty low standard. You have to have low-priced items to compete in a commodity market. If your item, whatever it is adequate, then that's good enough. There is no or little benefit or reward from making something that's much higher quality than other items in that same market. In the case of games, you might get a hit occasionally, whereas the ones aimed at the lower end of the commodity market probably won't. But that's all. Part of this is because a great many players nowadays who have come either from non-game backgrounds or from party games or mass market games, essentially games where you don't think. Many of those people are actually exploring games, playing the games 1 to 3 times to learn how the game works and what there is and what might be interesting, and then they move on to the next game. They're not interested in mastering games. They're not interested in playing a game that has a lot of gameplay depth to it so that there are a lot more things than you can experience in 1 to 3 plays. And many of them are actually pretty bad players because that's not their objective to be good players. It's their objective to learn about games and they're interested in doing that. This is, the commodity market is a reason why a publisher told me recently at a convention that the lifetime for a tabletop game is 45 days. It goes out, it sells or doesn't sell, there aren't reorders because there are lots of new games, and it's done. 45 days. We could attach notions of short attention spans here and so forth, and that comes into it as well. But what it reminded me of is an old saw that was common back in the days when books were sold in bookstores and were not something you could buy online. Pretty much you had to go to a bookstore to buy a book. And that notion was that if you write a poor novel and it has a good cover, it'll sell. If you write a good novel and it has a poor cover, it won't sell. Because when people are buying, they're just not paying attention to the quality. They're paying attention to the cover. Now, think again, back then you couldn't go online and read reviews of a game or a book or anything else. Nowadays you can, but most people apparently don't. This is also why Kickstarter does so well. People don't know what the quality of the game is when they're supporting a Kickstarter game. Even if there are reviews, you have to be a little bit suspicious of reviews that somebody is paid to have written or have created as a video. You really don't know what you're getting. So if people on Kickstarter focus on the looks, on the history of the designer, and usually, oh, is this some poor sot who hasn't had a game designed and he really needs help, rather than, oh, this is somebody who's really experienced, so he'll make a good game. The result of all these things is a commodity market. And I went to a talk at Proto Atlanta, where a guy who is a publisher was very uncomplimentary about current players and about how you get their attention. It's not the game, it's the story, or it's the title, something like that. And that's also part of what makes a commodity market, because people, I won't say don't care about the quality, but they don't pay attention to it when they're buying something. So this is pretty depressing to game designers, and is more of the notion that game design is no longer a meritocracy. The good games don't necessarily rise to the top, not at all. And that's, again, in the nature of a commodity market. Thanks for listening.